Good morning, salam sejahtera to all participants and our invited speaker for today. And today we have with us is Professor Dr. Muhammad Aminul from UNIMAP, University Malaysia Perlis. And he'll be presenting us with the topic developing a theoretical and conceptual framework from existing research. This will be very, very good for our student or learners or community who plan to pursue their study in doctorate in any field. Okay, and especially either is quantitative or qualitative, but of course I suspect it's more towards quantitative research. And on top of that, little bit about our professor. He did his degree from UIA, University Islam Malaysia, and then master and PhD from USM.
Oh, sebenarnya kan
And he won
hari
best
Rafiah,
thesis. His thesis won a
hari
best award,
Rafiah.
and he's with
Malam Kak Ida balik awal.
prior joining UNIMAP. He was with Olympia, and he have
Hari
currently
rasa.
700,000 read on his research
Ha?
aid, and he have
Semalam.
published a lot of
Semalam ada event apa tu?
article at Scopus or Web of Science.
Semalam.
And without further ado, I'd like to invite Professor Aminol. What we will do, the session is, this session will be 2 hours.
What kind of rayuan you want to do?
Suzy, tolong mute.
Sorry.
Okay. So what we will do, this session will be organized in this manner that first 1.5 hours, Professor Aminul will give his talk. After that, we have Q&A for half an hour. So you can post your question in the chat room, or later on we will you can unmute and ask the question. I'll be your moderator. By the way, I'm Shashi from OUM Graduate Center. So over to you, Prof.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. First of all, thank you, Prof. Dr. Shashi Kumar, for inviting me, as well as the Open University Malaysia. This is my first appearance with Open University Malaysia. I have attended or conducted webinars in most of the Malaysian universities, including University Putra Malaysia, University Technology Malaysia, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UIA, ETHM, Taylor's University, Malaysian University of Science and Technology, many other. Most of the universities in Malaysia I have been, except the University of Malaya and EUM. These two universities I have not been. I'm in the government universities and the OEM. So this is a good opportunity for me to share some of my ideas and thoughts and experiences to with the students of Open University of Malaysia. Okay. With that, let me start my session. I think some participants saying that Google Live, the streaming is not available yet. Possibly some of them would like to, they're WhatsApping me. So possibly I think it's going to be available soon. All right, let me share the screen. Okay, I think the Google Live stream has not started yet. So they are trying to solve the problem. Or the participants, okay. Or let me put in a slideshow. Slideshow. Just give me a minute.
Prof, you can ask them to join via Google Meet because we still have capacity.
Yes,
Join
yes.
via Google Meet link.
Sure. All right. So that is the topic for today's discussion. Students pursuing PhD or master of thesis, or even early stage of academic staffs, those have even completed PhD, could be a good refresher for them. And even those are thinking of pursuing PhD in near future, this session would be very helpful for them. So this is the title for today, Developing a Theoretical Conceptual Framework from Existing Research. As we know, any topic that we think of taking, for PhD journey, hundreds or thousands of people may have done research on the topic before. There's no area where you could be the first one, all right? Even you could be the first one, but you need necessary materials to support your study. So a well-researched area, even better. You get a lot of materials, and from there, you go on, okay? So that's why my focus today would be developing theoretical framework or conceptual framework from existing research. So this is going to be the outline of my presentation. First of all, I'm going to describe what do you mean by a theory and a theoretical framework for a research project. I'm going to explain the clear distinctions between a theoretical framework and conceptual framework. There are a lot of misunderstanding on these two. Number three, I'm going to elaborate why every good thesis should have a theoretical or conceptual framework. But again, during my discussion, I'll make it clear whether every research needs to have a theoretical or conceptual framework. Then number four, I will be also covering the step-by-step process of how a theoretical or conceptual framework from a research is developed. And finally, I'm going to provide you some of the real framework that have been used for PhD studies. So this is how I usually begin the theoretical framework.
Prof.
Yes.
I think we are able to see your next slide. Maybe you can close the next slide so that we only see the current slide.
Sure.
And it will be bigger.
Close that. Okay, let me see. Next. Okay, that's good. Give me a few seconds.
Can, no problem.
This one. Is it okay now?
Yes, now it's good.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you to
Welcome. My son is
who have
helping.
highlighted.
All right. So the high achievement always takes place in the framework of high expectation. When PhD students usually come to see us for the first time, most of the students will have high expectation. They will tell us, Prof, I want to do like that. And we'll tell the students, this research area may not be suitable for you. And then the students will argue, they will say, no, this is only one in our lifetime. I'm going to do PhD. I want to do something great or something big, So we tell the students, by doing a PhD, you are not going to win the world. You're not going to conquer the world, right? You're not going to change the whole world by doing a PhD. So then we will ask them to narrow down and be focused on a specific area when they undertake the PhD journey. But again, we know that once we aim high, if we cannot even achieve, we go near to the destination that we think we'd like to reach there. So our expectation got to be higher. And if you are doing a PhD degree, then definitely the expectation is to contribute some kind of new knowledge, or to propose some kind of new methodology, or to propose some kind of policy guidelines, some policy recommendations for the stakeholders of the research problem that we have identified. So when we are thinking of undertaking a PhD study, so our expectation got to be high, because there are students also come to see us and they will tell us, Prof, I just want to get the degree, that's it. So when your mentality is like that, I just want to get a degree, then definitely your expectation is too low, and your output would be that kind of. You are just getting a paper qualification, and that may not be helpful, beneficial for your career growth. And also you are not going to contribute anything to the society or to the country. Okay, so when you are undertaking a PhD study, it's going to take 3 years to 7 years, right? Minimum 3 years, and being allowed up to extension until 7 years. So when you spend 3 to 7 years, the outcome that you are going to get, obviously you would like to see some kind of contribution towards the society, towards the nation. That's what is expected, okay? Now, let me start with very basic at the beginning, because I know some of the students are here with me now. Those are at the initial stage of their research. Research is an organized, objective, and systematic process to study a particular problem that needs a solution, right? So the important thing here is research is not undertaken if you don't have a problem. Research is only undertaken when there is an identified problem there. Okay, so that's the first important point that we have to keep in mind. So when we are thinking of undertaking a research, especially when the students comes to see us and we'll ask the student, what would you like to do? And the students will talk about a title, a topic, or area of research. And then we'd ask the student, what is the problem in your mind? What is the problem that you have identified that needs solution? And the student will start mumbling. They don't really have any research problem in mind. So we'll tell the students, okay, you go back and read some papers, So when they read 15, 20 papers in the area of where the students would like to undertake the research, then you will have some kind of understanding of the research area, what has been done and what is not been done. So that's where you will find a problem that is affecting the society or industry or the nation, and that's why you will be taking the research. So a research problem is very important for us to identify at the beginning, and that research problem will drive through the subsequent process of doing research. We'll develop framework, we'll have hypotheses, we'll collect data, analyze, and finally, we're supposed to have solutions to the problem that is identified and described in chapter 1 usually, okay? All right, so there are some other smaller definitions which I like. Research is like a voice of discovery, because at the end of the day, you will show something new. That is very important in most of our PhD journey that we have done. Those of you who are with me have completed PhD, we know how much we had to sweat to answer the question, what is new? So it is a voyage of discovery. You're discovering something new, a new knowledge which is not existed in the existing literature. So you're going to contribute something new, or a new methodology which has not been used before, and we are going to propose something new, okay? This is some other definitions are there. It's an experience, it's an attitude, it's a journey, and it's a method of critical thinking. It could be a critical inquiry on seeking facts or principles. In research, when we start, the common mistake of a student is they will just think of like, okay, I want to do my PhD now. And they will try to find out a university. And once the university is identified, they try to find out a suitable supervisor. Or sometimes they may try to find out the suitable supervisor first, then they pin the university. So the common mistake with the students is when they identify a supervisor university and they try to try to communicate with the supervisor, the prof, I would like to undertake my PhD journey. And then I say, what have you done so far? Have you written a proposal? So not yet. So tell the students, okay, you find out the area of your interest. You write a proposal and send it to me, and then say, Prof, I have never written a proposal. How do I write a proposal? That's how it starts. So a journey, when you start from your home going somewhere, it doesn't start like that, right? You wake up and you just start the journey. You got to decide when you are going to start and why are you going, where are you going, how are you going. All sort of questions are there in the journey, and that's why I will always love to give this definition that research is a journey, and you need some preparation before you start. Okay, that makes your journey fruitful, beneficial, useful, enjoying. Okay, students who have not done enough preparation before undertaking PhD, they will suffer a lot during the process of the journey. So if you have done a good amount of reading, surveying and reading and understanding journals, published papers, and develop good understanding, good gaps, control over the area of your research, then your journey will be easier because you know exactly how are you going. For example, like you are traveling from Penang to KL, and you know what are the ways are going, right? You can go by flight, you can go by bus, you can go by train, and there are so many different ways of going. But of course, you will choose the one suitable, convenient for you. A research journey is like that. There are so many different approaches, so many different research design. There are so many, paradigms and all that. So we have to know all of them so that we know exactly which one to be undertaken, okay, to continue the PhD journey. So this is the, basically these are the components of an empirical research. You start with research problem, as I said earlier. When you do research paper, you will identify the gap, then you will identify and define the research problem. And then we'll translate the research problem into research questions, research objective, and then we'll start reviewing literature. That is existing research. That's the title for today, right? We are developing theoretical framework from existing research. So when you read literature, existing research is, and then we summarize them and we extract the relevant thing that is needed for me to develop a theoretical framework. So when you read a research paper, basically the first thing we'd like to see is what the theory being used. Every research, if it is theory driven, there must be a theory to underpin your framework. If you are doing a qualitative research, then you will have a conceptual framework, not theoretical framework, okay? If you are doing quantitative research, you will have a theoretical framework. If you are doing qualitative research, you will have conceptual framework. So a theoretical framework is driven by a theory or by theories. Conceptual framework is driven by concepts. So I'm going to do more discussion on it afterwards, okay? So that's where the theoretical framework strengths, okay? So you have identified and defined your research problem, translated them into research questions, then you review relevant literature, you read all those, the leading authors' articles, and then you identify theories and variables, then you develop framework. From the framework, then the race of the research continues, okay? So we will construct hypotheses, and then based on the hypothesis, the identified variable from the framework, we have operation definitions, we design questionnaire, and we choose the design and methodology, and it goes on, okay? And finally, we conclude the research. This is something that I proposed, and I have already done the patenting of this idea that I have come out with Malaysia. My IPO, I have already patented this. The tree analogy, I compare research with the tree, okay? And I said a tree basically depends on how strong the roots of the tree is. If the roots of the tree is weak, the tree doesn't sustain. A small wind will make it fall, okay? So that's the research problem. A research is dependent on how well you identify the research problem. If you have done a good job in identifying the research problem, then your research footing is strong, okay? So that's how it is, okay? So research problem, I compare it like the root of the tree. And this is the theoretical framework. If the roots are strong, but the body of the tree is not that strong, again, the tree may not survive, a strong wind will make it fall. So a theoretical framework is like the body of the tree, okay? The body of the tree, that's theoretical framework. That's how important theoretical framework is, okay? And that's where I'm going to have discussion today. So those of you who are with me, you are fortunate to have a session like that. Definitely you may have attended some of the other sessions. But this is an important session because this is the important part of the research. Theoretical framework, that's the body of the tree. The stronger body of the tree, it bears more fruits. It makes it strong to survive even the strong wind is there, right? So this all will be there, okay? And then the underpinning theories. Your theoretical framework is developed based on some theories. So I compare it of the branches of the tree. And the leaves of the tree, I compare with literature. Literature review basically beautifies your research, okay? In a tree, whether the tree looks beautiful or not, it depends on the, most of the time, depends on the leaves of the tree, before the flower comes in. And there are many trees where there's no flowers, right? It is all about the leaves that beautifies the tree. So in a research, the literature review exactly does the job, It beautifies the research. When you are writing a PhD thesis, your literature review could be about 40, 50, even 60 pages out of 200 pages of your thesis, So the literature review beautifies your research. So you have to make sure you cover the whole aspects of existing literature. And from there, you identify your underpinning theories, and then you develop the theoretical framework. So these all are interconnected, okay? So when a tree having a problem, where do you see first? You see with the leaves. You will see the leaves is dropping, leaves are dropping, or the leaves are getting different, getting discolored and all that. From there, identify the tree is having problem. That's how important literature review is. The existing research. That's what we review, and then we identify, extract the necessary relevant thing that we need for our research. And of course, the research output, the contribution is the fruits of the tree, and that's what is expected. Okay. Now, if you are coming out with the same fruits that we already have, then definitely people will say, what is the new? What is the new contribution, right? So you may not have new. So you have the same tree, but different kind of fruits. You have the same tree, but the volume of the fruits are more, the quantity of fruits are more. You have the same tree, but the fruits are more nutritious. Okay, you have the same tree, but the fruit size is bigger. That is the contribution. So you have the same tree, same research, even though millions of people have done research on the area, and you are doing it again. So at the end, you have to show something new. So that's what is expected. You can extend a theory, you can modify a theory, you can verify a theory, you can integrate theories, you can nullify theory. There are so many different ways of contributing new knowledge. Okay, and you know even in the same tree you can have another fruits bear, right? You know the way how it is done, which I'm not going to go. So that's the indication of theory that can be done. So when you identify there is a problem, we always go back to the root of the tree, right? So that's where we find out what is the problem. So it could be the water is a problem. We didn't do appropriate watering. It could be the problem of fertilizer, so we give appropriate fertilizer. So that's what I compare as collecting of data, the data quality and robustness of analysis. If your analysis of the roots of the tree is wrong and you give different wrong fertilizer, wrong chemicals, or different kind of watering, then the tree is going to have more problem. So identifying the data where it is, identifying the problem where it is rooted. So in a research, when you are undertaking, make sure we collect the data from where the problem is rooted. If we are doing a research on a manufacturing industry, then we have to see the problem that we are identifying is actually concern of whom. If the problem is bothering the top level management, so the data should be collected from top level management. If the problem is affecting the middle level, then we should collect the data from the middle level. If the problem is affecting the lower level, data should be collected from the lower level. Or if the problem is affecting the whole organization, then we have to collect from the whole organization. That is what the data quality and your robustness of analysis will be, okay? Let me cover this also before proceeding to the next of my discussion. The unit of analysis, many times when I go as external in other universities, when you ask a student, what is unit of analysis? And the students will be looking like, never heard of it, But that's what I say, the root of the problem, where the problem is rooted, data collection should be done from there. So if problem is affecting individuals, data should be collected from individuals. If problem is affecting household, data should be collected from the household. So unit of analysis is the unit that we analyze, the unit where data is collected, right? That's what you call unit of analysis. Very important. The reason I put this slide is not for that. I think most of you understand it. The reason I put it is to highlight that the theories that we have, I'm going to have more discussion on it. There are certain theories are individual level theory, and there are certain theories are organization level theories. So if your data is collected from individual, then make sure your theory, chosen theory is individual level theory. If your data is collected from organization, if the problem is affecting the whole organization, and data collected from organization, whole organization, that the theory got to be organization level theory. Okay. So next question would be, many of you may ask, how do I know whether this theory is an individual level theory or organization level theory? All right. What you have to do is, we know every theory is proposed based on certain assumptions. So please look at the assumptions. Go back to the original paper when the theory is proposed. And there you will see assumptions are given. If those assumptions are individual level assumption, then it is definitely an individual level theory. If assumptions are organization levels, then it's an organization level theory, okay? Okay, I will start from here, okay? This is a missing link in with most of the PhD students in Asia. PhD is what? Doctor of Philosophy. It's not about Doctor of Management or Doctor of Finance or Doctor of Marketing, is Doctor of Philosophy, meaning that any PhD study that we undertake, it must have some philosophical foundation, and that is completely missing in most of the cases, thesis, dissertation that you read in Asia. I do read thesis from Macquarie University, Australia, and I find the beauty of this part in their thesis. There's a beautiful section written on this, the philosophical underpinning, the philosophical foundation of your research. All right, so let me go through this quickly. Research paradigm as theoretical, philosophical underpinning of research. We say the set of common beliefs and agreements shared between scientists. It's about how problems should be understood and addressed. Okay, So when we undertake research, definitely the research is undertaken with a identified and defined research problem. So here, Kuhn, 1970, is saying that it's all about how problems should be understood and addressed. We identify the research problem, and then through the research, at the end of it, everybody would know how the problem is and how it can be solved. Okay, what is the problem? Why it is happening? And what are the solutions? So that is what is being said by Kuhn. It should be understood and addressed. Okay, so it shows basically worldview of conducting research. So when you are reviewing literature, the study conducted in the whole world, across the globe, and you are getting all those related findings that give you the overview of the research from the whole world perspective, a global overview of the research conducted. A research paradigm also provides researchers an idea, choose methods. Later, I'm going to show you the ontology and epistemology. From there, we'll decide which approach we are going to get, deductive or inductive. And then we will proceed to quantitative or qualitative. We are going to have this discussion afterwards, okay? So research paradigm is the one that addresses what should be the method. It provides the guideline of which method should be chosen exactly, okay? So this is what ontology is. So ontology, we say that it is about a study of being, which is concerned with what actually exists in the world. So we are looking at exactly what is there and what is not there, okay? So we say that ontology helps researchers to think can be, about the nature and existence of object they are researching. So we are looking at exact problem, which is existence and how it is affecting and all that, okay? So that is ontology. So for instance, that what the truth claim can researchers make about the reality? Who decide the legitimacy of what is real? And how do researchers deal with different and conflicting ideas of reality? When you have identified a research problem, then we have to understand that the reality of it, whether there's a truth in it. Say, for example, sometimes students come and talk to us, and they'll provide, propose different kind of topics. So we will start drilling the students by asking many questions, how do you know that problem appears? So the students sometimes will say, I've been working with that and I have seen that. I say, no, that doesn't work because this is an academic degree. You have to talk from research. What theory talks about this problem? What about the literature, the different researches being conducted? What did they find out, and all the sort of thing that we got to get from people, okay? So here in ontology, there are two group of thinking. One group is that they feel that there's only one answer for a problem. The other group, we call it relativist ontologists. They believe, no, there might be many different answers for one research question or one research problem, okay? So the first group is realist ontologists. They believe that there's only one answer for a truth. There's only one answer of the truth. But the relativist ontologists, they believe, no, there could be many answers of a truth, okay? So now with COVID-19, we are slowly exploring, right? Before, we are thinking that possibly the vaccination is the only answer, but now the tablet is out. So soon we are going to have tablets, right? It's being experimented in Malaysia also, and looks like it's working. So you may not have to go to a vaccination. Those are afraid of taking the simple, so you can go for a vaccination. There could be some other solutions available there. So when you are doing a research, say for example, you are looking at turnover, employee turnover in an industry. And there could be many reasons. It could be because of salary. It could be the working environment. It could be the leadership style. So to solve the problem, there could be many solutions available, not only one solution to your problem, right? In our real life, I have never seen a situation whereby I have only one solution, only one alternative. In our life, every problem that we face, there are many alternatives to choose. It's up to us which one I would like to choose, right? So that's the relativist ontologists believe that every research idea, every research problem that you identify, define, there could be many different answers. And then we will decide in the scope of our research, we'll tell the authors, the readers, that actually this is the scope. I'm going to find out this kind of ideas. So that's ontologies, okay? Whereby epistemology basically is a Greek word of epistem, which means knowledge. So what I'm going to do is, once we identify the problem, we're going to look at what kind of knowledge is existed there, okay? the nature and the form and how it can be acquired. Okay, so through research, we are going to acquire some kind of new knowledge, that is an epistemology. Okay, so in ontology, we are looking at whether the problem really exists. And then we are looking at how many alternative of solutions may be there for us to find out. Okay, but epistemology is the next stage whereby we are identifying exactly what kind of the truth or reality there, and how do we know it, and coming out with the exact form of knowledge, something that we acquire through research. Okay, so it focuses on the nature of human knowledge and comprehension that researcher can possibly acquire or be able to extend, broaden, and deepen, right? That's what I said earlier. So, for example, you have a base theory. You can extend the theory through your research. The theory was suitable enough before, but it's not adequate anymore. So we extend the theory. We can modify the theory. We can nullify the theory. That theory is no more applicable. Okay. We can integrate theory. We say that one theory is not enough to explain the phenomena that we have decided to take for our research. We can integrate 2-3 theory and coming out with a new framework. All right. So that is epistemology. Coming out is something that the knowledge is being acquired and described through research. So the philosophical underpinning, you see how it works. So you are looking at ontology. What is the reality? And epistemology is what or how I can know the reality of knowledge. Then from there, we go to the theoretical perspective. What approach can we use to get the knowledge? From there, we define the kind of methodology we're going to use, what kind of procedure we're going to use. Either it's going to be qualitative or quantitative, right? The methodology or the procedures, design and all that. What tools can we use to acquire the knowledge? And finally, the data sources. So the ontology actually the one that set the scene, because you are finding out whether really there is a problem exists. That is ontology. From there, we are going to look at how and what can we know about the reality of it. And then slowly you develop the framework and they decide on the methodology and all that. So that's just how important it is. So in a PhD research, he's Doctor of Philosophy. So you must have this philosophical underpinning starting from ontology. And then from there, we carry on and proceed, okay? So there are 3 groups of people here. Again, positivists, constructivists, and pragmatists, okay? Positivists, they believe there is a single reality. And in that case, we will proceed to the quantitative study. Why? Because in quantitative study, we test hypotheses. Either hypothesis accepted or hypothesis rejected. So you have only one reality, okay? While the constructivists believe that there is no single reality of truth. There could be more, okay? So in that case, you might have to go to qualitative method, okay? So when you interview people and you interview few people, you get many different ideas. So one problem, you may have many different kind of perspectives and solutions available there. That's constructivists. And the other group of researchers, we call them pragmatists. They believe that the reality could be constantly renegotiated, debated, interpreted, okay? So this one is the mixed research approach. As we understand later, I will explain it more. In research, the first groundbreaking research is always qualitative. Because qualitative ends with the theory. And then in quantitative research, we take on that theory and then we try to verify it, validate it, extend it, and then we test it, we nullify it. That is quantitative. So research is started with qualitative, then goes to quantitative. From there, again, it goes back to the qualitative and quantitative, and that continues. That's its pragmatist. We'll combine qualitative and quantitative methods in a research, okay? So if you are doing a quantitative research, then you are a positivist. You are talking about single reality. If you are doing a qualitative study or constructivist, you believe, no, there is not a single truth, but there could be many different solutions. Whereby if you are taking the approach of pragmatist, then you are believing that the reality can be renegotiated, could be debated, could be interpreted differently and all that. So you are going to have mixed approach in the research. This one, I'll leave it for you. Now, let me proceed to research approaches. So please follow me how the research flows from one to another, right? So it starts with the philosophical foundation. So you are talking about positivists, relativists, and pragmatists, right? So from there, you proceed to research approaches. There are 2 research approaches, basically. First one we call deductive. We start with the theory, Then we develop hypotheses from the theory, we collect data, and finally accept or reject hypothesis. This is quantitative, right? This is quantitative. So you have the theory already there. And possibly you take one underpinning theory and you have the dimension and you test hypothesis. Or you take few theories and we develop the framework, right? So from there, we develop hypotheses, we collect data and answer it. So I put it this way, an analogy that you are landed in a beautiful garden and you have all flowers there. And not every flower that you may like. So you may only choose the one you like. So that is deductive approach. The theories are there. You choose the current relevant, the most relevant theory, the most useful theory, beneficial theory to explain and solve the research problem that you have identified. That is deductive approach. Everything is there. You choose what you want, okay? So if you are doing a literature review on a specific area, there could be many theories there. So once you finish reading 10 or 20 or 30 papers, you may have 10 theories and you have 30 variables. So you pick up relevant variables like 4, 5, 6. That's enough for you to develop a framework, okay? You choose one or two theories, not all theories relevant to explain, interpret, and find a solution to the problem that you have. That is deductive approach, okay? So this is quantitative, okay? The next one is inductive, completely opposite of deductive approach. We observe a phenomena, we analyze the pattern, we formulate relationship, and finally we develop a theory. Most of the cases, the qualitative research stops with developing a concept. If you are able to develop a theory, then you will be getting a Nobel Prize. Not many qualitative researchers will be able to propose a theory. Developing a theory is not that easy, okay? So qualitative researchers will end up with proposing some assumptions, relationship of some variables, developing some concept, that's it. But if good research will end up with developing a new theory, that is inductive. So you are starting with zero. You observe a phenomena, observe a change that is taking place in the society, and you started thinking, hey, why is that happening? You know, like for example, now, if you look at the kids, their behavior is completely different than us. Our time, we used to be outdoor. You know, 3, 4 o'clock, you start to be going outdoor, right? Even our parents used to control us. Still, we look at the watch with 3:34, we want to run out from the house. But now it is different. We try to force kids to go out. They don't want. They want to stay inside. Why they want to stay inside? It's a technological advancement. The smartphone and many other things are there in their hand. They don't want to go out. Rather, they want to stay in, right? So when you see the changes taking place like that, even now, we see is common in a dining table. You see mom is with a smartphone, the dad is with a smartphone, the son, daughter, everyone is on a smartphone and nobody is talking to anyone. Even in the university, when you see the students are sitting together, 10, 15 of them, and no one is talking to anyone. Everyone is just with the mobile phone. So when you observe certain thing like that, you know, then you think like, okay, I want to see why is that happening. We know now, you know, why it's happening, right? But at the beginning, but then what is important is looking at the change of behavior of the kids, the way they behave, the way we used to behave with our kids are totally different from now, the way the kids are behaving with us, right? So when you see this pattern, we want to take it up. No research has been done. There's no theory that can explain it. So I take it on from zero. And then I end up with proposing a theory that can explain why such phenomena occurs, such behavior is there, okay? So this is the assumption that I take. There's the analogy to explain the inductive approach. It's like you are given a completely free land, nothing there. You start plowing the land, then you prepare the land for harvesting, right? And then you plant the tree. You then fertilize the tree, you water the tree. Finally, it gives you the kind of fruits that you wanted. Remember, we said we look into the phenomena. And then from there, we analyze the trend. Finally, we come out with something that I really want to solve. So this is all about the way I want it. Okay. So finally, I get a beautiful garden that I wanted. So this is inductive research. This is inductive research. See, you are starting with zero and ending up with something very nice, very beautiful. When you propose a new theory, that's what it is. You are famous because you propose something totally new and you feel like satisfied because you propose something new for people to understand any phenomena. That is inductive approach. So this is qualitative research. So you are starting with, ontology, epistemology, then you are looking at positivist, relativist, and pragmatist approach. From there, we decide on deductive or inductive, and finally, we'll proceed to the kind of research you would like to do, okay? Now, let us look at the categories of research. I'm going with the flow. Please follow the flow that I'm doing it. So the categories of research are basically three: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method. So qualitative is basically understanding the human behavior and the reasons that govern such behavior. But in qualitative research, we systematically do the investigation, collecting the data and finding out the relationship between the different issues in a phenomena. And mixed approach whereby you combine the qualitative and quantitative research. That's what earlier I have shown you, right? We have we have pragmatists, where you have the mixed approach, right? So we are coming out with philosophical underpinning, then we're looking at paradigm, and then we come to the category of research. So there's a complete flow there. When we are writing chapter 3, that's how it should be written. The flow should be there. Theoretical underpinning, before theoretical underpinning, the philosophical underpinning, the approach, then you look at category, which category are you going to follow, and then there should be clear-cut flow, how the sequence of how you are going, the research is flowing, okay? This is how it is, I explained earlier. All research start with qualitative. And then you collect the data, you develop some hypothesis, propose hypothesis, assumption, that's it, where you stop. A theory is based on assumption. You just propose certain assumption. That's it. That is qualitative study. And then quantitative study, like people like me, who is a quantitative researcher, we take on from there the hypothesis, assumptions given in a theory. Then we collect data and we try to prove whether that is true or that is not true. And when you end there, a qualitative research will end always not solving the problem completely. Rather, our research will end up with raising more questions. That is the beauty of quantitative research, Not a single quantitative study will solve the problem completely. It will further raise more questions. And that gives the room for other researchers to conduct research on the same area, okay? That's quantitative research. So when you raise more questions, that gives the room for qualitative researchers to take it again, okay? And that process continues, okay? So you are following the research philosophy, from there the approach, and now you come to research method, qualitative or quantitative. This is the triangulation, right? The mixed approach. It could be qualitative, quantitative together. You can have multiple waves of qualitative, multiple waves of quantitative. You may have qualitative followed by quantitative, qualitative. You can have quantitative precedes the qualitative, okay? So there are many different approaches of triangulation is there. For me, since I'm a quantitative researcher, for my student, I will ask them to do quantitative and then after that qualitative. So I want them to verify the qualitative findings with some quantitative findings with some qualitative findings. That's what I do, okay? So for a qualitative researcher, possibly after completing qualitative research, they can also verify with some quantitative data and see whether the findings tally of what you have found in qualitative and what you have found in quantitative. That beautifies the research, okay? Let me quickly go through this very quickly. There could be many research design. It could be reporting, just reporting what you do, is just describing what you have found out and all that. It could be predictive, predicting the relationship, right? It could be explanatory, that most of the research that you do in qualitative or quantitative or so, right? So this research is conducted basically when the problem is not well researched before and demands some priorities and generating operating definition, all that. We call it explanatory research. Exploratory, when the research has not been done at all, the problem has not been clearly identified. That's where the qualitative research, every qualitative research mostly is undertaken using exploratory, or sometimes they do also use explanatory, okay? This one I will skip. Let me start with this. Okay, now I'm coming into the title of today's topic, okay? The concept of theory. What is a theory? It's a Greek term, okay, come from theorem, which means the proposition to be proved. meaning that every theory, you have certain assumptions being proposed, and then we have to prove, okay, those assumptions. That's where the qualitative study comes in. So it is set of related statements that describe, explain phenomena in a systematic way, okay. Let me proceed to here, okay. So a theory is basically a set of interrelated concepts or constructs, okay. If it is quantitative, it's constructs. If it is qualitative, it's concepts, okay. Definition and proposition that present a systematic view of phenomena is specifying the relations among variables, okay. So this definition basically says three things which are very important. A theory is a set of propositions consisting of defined and interrelated constructs. What is constructs? Constructs I'm going to explain afterwards, don't worry. A theory sets out the interrelations among the set of variables. So now we are talking about relationship between few variables being identified and proposed in the assumptions, okay? And a theory explains a phenomena. A theory would be, that's what is very important, right? Theoretical framework, we will somehow draw a line. Our research scope is like that. Theoretical framework basically says the scope of the research. So it should be able to explain the phenomena completely, the research problem that is identified and defined. If one theory is not enough, then we have to integrate few theories so that it becomes comprehensive to describe, explain the phenomena, the problem that is identified. There are certain characteristics of theory are there, and I have given citation. These slides will be shared with Dr. Shashi Kumar. So you may obtain and read through. I'm not going to spend time here, but I have put it there for you to understand better what makes it a theory, okay? Characteristics of a theory. Now, this is very important. How theory is being made. A theory is being developed with certain blocks. We call it building blocks. If you are living in a building, right? All of us now sitting in a building now. So you have bricks after the bricks over the bricks, and then slowly you get a building. A theory is developed like that. There are certain building blocks there, and you put it together, it becomes a theory, right? We buy blocks for our kids to play, and you see how they put one after another and they design different things, right? But in theory, there are described blocks there, and those blocks have to be there to become a theory. Okay, let me explain that. Idea, it all starts with ideas. All starts with idea, distinct features of a theory. These are the building blocks of a theory. It all starts with ideas. Ideas are what? A thought or suggestion as to possible course of action. Ideas could be something very absurd, may not have any meaning. It could be related to someone, may not be related to somebody. It could be meaningful to somebody, may not be meaningful to somebody. Most of the time, the first time the idea is being expressed are not useful at all, meaningless, okay? So when we are being able to convert that idea into something meaningful, that become concept. Okay, that's the second building blocks of a theory. Okay, so what picture or mental idea or phenomena, a word or term that symbolizes certain aspects considered on the human brain, abstract intelligence, something that we can feel that, yeah, this is something, a reality, something is useful, something is beneficial. So you can visualize it, you can see it. Okay, so that is the concept, but you have not been able to measure it yet. That is concept. Developing certain assumptions from a research for a theory, certain assumptions there, that is concept. Okay, when you say conceptualize it, meaning what? We try to understand it, right, better. So when the idea is being expressed, then we conceptualize it, make it like, okay, this is something understandable, something useful, that become concept. And when a concept can be measured, it become construct. So construct is something that is all measurable. Okay, that is something measurable. It become construct. And when we assume relationship between construct, it become a proposition. And when propositions are proved, it become theory. So that are the building blocks of a theory. It comes with the ideas, which is something could be totally meaningless, something absurd. But when you conceptualize it, we become concept. That's the first building blocks, right? And then we continue to measure it. When we are being able to measure the concept, it become construct. Later we'll see the variables in a framework. Every variable is measured. And then only we can assume the relationship, we test the relationship. Okay, so the proposition, the hypothesis, and then finally when it is proved, it becomes theory. And then every construct that we have, we have to, right, operationalize it. Those of you who have completed PhD or in the process of developing instruments or waiting for the final viva, you know how you operationalize the variable, right? When the variable is there, then we have to have operational definition. First of all, we have definition. The book is definition. Somebody has defined it. But then that definition could differ from my definition in my thesis, you know. Say, for example, simple example, salary. Salary, somebody may define it as monthly salary. Somebody could be yearly salary. Somebody could be just the salary, the basic he has. Somebody may take it the whole compensation package. Okay. Someone may take its compensation package as if only the one he get monthly one, you know, without the EPF and all those contributions. So it differs, you know. So operation definition will be the one that I have used in my research. A concept could be different definition by different authors. Okay. The idea that I have, I may define it, conceptualize differently from you. That's how it is. Okay. So we have to have operation definition. From there, we will identify the dimension and then we have elements into it. Okay. So every variable of research is measured by few items of questions, right? So you have question in the questionnaire. Say, for example, one independent variable, I have 5 questions. Actually, those are the 5 dimensions I have. Okay. So each question actually measuring one dimension. Say, for example, if you are measuring organization performance and you are measuring on financial way, then you might be looking at profitability. You might be looking at sales. You might be looking at some other aspects of the balance sheet and the profit and loss account that you have. You may look at non-financial measurement of organization performance. Then you are going to look at your employee turnover and many other aspects that we have, you know. So it all differs, you know, the kind of understanding we have of a construct. Then from there, we'll decide how are you going to measure it. Let us look at this one quickly before I start moving into theoretical framework. There are a few kinds of theories available. The first one is descriptive theory, basically describe a phenomena. Grand theory or macro theory that basically describe the large segment of human experience. Middle-aged theory, more specific to certain phenomena. Then you have borrowed theory, a nursing model. Somebody has proposed a theory. It has not been studied by others. So that is a borrowed theory. You are borrowing the theory, you are testing it, and you are validating it, verifying it. That is the borrowing theory, right? And when somebody has proposed a theory and you have validated it, you have verified it, it becomes a shared theory. Okay, and then the last one is very important. When you have identified and defined a research problem, which is not supported by any of the existing theory. So what did you do? In that case, we will find out variable based on the research undertaken before. So it's a data-driven explanation. Okay, so we may take the variables from the qualitative study without any theories. Okay, that is grounded theory. Okay, data-driven explanation of a phenomena. Okay, so when you are developing theoretical framework, depending on the kind of research problem you have identified and defined, you will decide which kind of theory will be suitable to underpin your research model. So I've given a little more definition of grounded theory. I have already explained. I'm not going to spend time with. Let us look at what is a theoretical framework. Okay, so a theoretical framework comprises theories expressed by expert in the field. So it provides something like a theoretical coat hanger, for your data analysis and interpretation of results. So your theory is, your framework, research framework, is developed with the support of a theory. Okay, so it is a theory-driven model. Okay, so if we put it differently, we say theoretical framework is a structure that summarizes the concept of theories, because if concept, then conceptual framework, theory will be theoretical framework. Okay, which you develop from previously tested and published knowledge, which you synthesize to help that you have a theoretical background. Okay, so we are developing our theoretical framework to show people that actually the variable that I have taken are tested. Okay, is being proposed and tested and found out through the published work, and that's why today's title is developing theoretical conceptual framework from existing research, right? So the theoretical framework would be the basis for you, to collect data and doing the analysis, okay? And that's what Swanson, 2013, explicitly asserts that theoretical framework is the structure that can hold or support a theory of a research of a study, okay? So your theoretical framework is holding a theory, okay, or theories to explain the phenomena that we have identified. Now, what is very important here to understand, theoretical framework is not a summary of your own thoughts about your research. When you are writing thesis, we cannot write, sometimes we think, we see students when they do the presentation, they say, I think, based on my experience. That doesn't work. So it has to be supported by previous research. Those people who are the leaders in the field, those who propose the theories of that has to be taken into it. Okay? And then data is yours. So your data is being interpreted with the theories that you have identified before. So in essence, we are saying a theoretical framework comprises what leaders in your field of research say about your research question, about your problem that you plan to investigate. Okay? So it's very important, right? So that's where many students will do mistake. When they write their thesis, they will develop the framework with support of certain theories. Those are not the prominent theories. There are prominent theories available there, And then when they do literature review, even though they did research review of a lot of research papers, but they will miss some of the experts' view, some of the theory that is famous, being used by everybody, which explain the phenomena more better than many other theories and findings. And we used to miss that link, So we have to make sure that all those important research findings, key studies in the area, being covered when you do literature review before we develop the theoretical framework. Why we need a theoretical framework? It has many functions. You see, it provides a general framework that guides your data analysis. It identifies the variable. You will put the variable identified through literature review in the framework. It explains how the variables are interrelated. I'm going to show you and explain that. And also it limits the data relevant to the framework. So it tells you exactly what type of questionnaire you're going to delete, what kind of measurement you're going to have, what kind of data you're going to have. So it stipulates at the end, definitely analyzing and interpreting the data. Now the question is theoretical framework applicable to all research? The answer is no. If you are doing qualitative research, quantitative research, and using questionnaire, and your approach is identifying variables, putting in the framework, and designing instruments and all that, definitely is theoretical framework. But if your research problem identifying is not supported by any theory, you start from zero, it is going to be conceptual framework, not a theoretical framework. And if you are doing a research in finance and economics, you may use econometrics modeling. In that case, you will have models, research model, not a framework, okay? So please understand that not all research requires theoretical framework. As we attend some of the final Viva session, students from finance or economics background, the students will misunderstand it, and they will put the theoretical framework, will tell them remove it because you're using panel data approach, panel data analysis. Therefore, you don't need a theoretical framework. Just econometrics modeling, the model is enough, okay? And we do observe also sometimes some examiners will come in, so no, you must have a theoretical framework, even for econometrics modeling, which I don't personally agree, and most economics professors will not agree to that, okay? So the theoretical framework is not relevant, not important for all research. It depends on what kind of research problem we identify and define, okay? Now, I think this one is understood. Most of you understand it. The type of variable, dichotomous would be like categorical variable, okay? The two categories only. Discrete variable will be more than two categories. And then continuous is like when you have continuous, okay? So I'm going to explain more later. These types of variable are more important for you to understand. Every theoretical framework, you will have independent and dependent variable. What is dependent variable? Dependent variable is something that is dependent on others. So in a research, you have a research problem, and you have many research issues, the issues that contribute to the problem. So those issues are independent variable, and the problem is dependent variable. And I always give simple example in most of my talks. If you are not feeling well and you go to see the doctor. So when you don't feel well, you go to see the doctor. Why you don't feel well? You are coughing. You are having fever. You are having body ache. You are having a stomach problem, whatnot. Those are the issues that together tells you that you're not feeling well. So not feeling well is a dependent variable. And the issues are not having fever, having body ache, having nausea, having stomach ache. All those are the issues. Those are independent variable. They are not related to each other. So independent variable are the causes, the issues that contribute to the problem. And the problem become dependent variable. Now, that also, let me remind you, when you are writing literature review, where should you start? You should start with dependent variable, okay? Because that's the theme of your research. Dependent variable is the theme of research. If you're doing a research, say for example, factors affecting job satisfaction in the manufacturing industry in Johor. Factors affecting job satisfaction. What is your main theme of the research? Job satisfaction. That is dependent variable. Factors contributing to job satisfaction. Those are independent variable. Okay, so issues are independent variable. Independent variables that are independent. They are not dependent. They are not related to each other. Okay. When you have independent variable and they are related to each other, then you will have problem later. You will have multicollinearity problem and many problems will be there. You will have difficulty to sustain, later in the defense. In between dependent and independent, we have intervening variable. Okay, intervening variable. That is like relationship between independent and dependent. When you have intervening, either the relationship can go up, relationship can go down. Okay, or the intervening variable work as a bridge between independent and dependent. Let me explain that. The first intervening variable, we call it moderating variable. When moderating variable is there, basically it helps to increase the relationship, improve the relationship, or decrease the relationship. That is moderating variable. I'm going to explain more. Simple example that I could give is, you can observe those are married. After marriage, when they have a kid, then you have a moderating variable there. It glues the relationship. So when you have a kid, in certain cases, the relationship even gets better because your focus is now on the kid. In certain cases, it may even the relationship may weakens. Because some people they don't really like to have kids and they focus on the job and all that. So it's a moderating variable. In the same case, it may increase the relationship, may decrease the relationship. That is moderating variable. And what happens to my mediating variable? Okay. I think I miss it somewhere. Okay. The mediating variable, I'll explain it again. The other intervening variable would be mediating variable. That works as a bridge between relationship. I'm going to explain it later for you. Now, how do we develop a theoretical framework? It is drawn using the materials for literature review. So when we develop model, there must be support for every variable. Okay. Any variable that we choose that is independent or dependent, mediating, moderating, we put it in the framework. Every variable must have support from literature. And of course, many students will ask, then how can I contribute something new? If I want to have everything, I need the support. And I wish to tell the student, when you read a paper, make sure you read suggestion for future research, which is being written at the end of the paper. So there they will say that these are the variables tested. And I would propose or suggest or recommend future researchers should study this, So when you do study, those of you are familiar, and look at R square. The R square is the explanatory power of the model. If R square is 50%, what does it tell? It tells you that your framework managed to capture 50% variable and 50% has not been captured. Okay. So then the author of the paper recommended you to try and explore to some other variables. So still you have a reference there, somebody recommended. So you can get from literature review yet a new variable which has not been tested before, but still got a reference. You can put them in the framework. This all I will leave it to for your own reading. Let me go straight now. Okay. Okay. Can someone tell me which one is independent variable and which one is dependent variable? Anyone, please? Looking at the framework.
Dependent attitude towards internet abuse as independent variable.
So you are saying internet abuse is dependent variable or independent variable?
Internet abuse is dependent.
Yeah, very good. Attitude towards internet abuse is independent variable.
Okay, thank you. So basically, this internet abuse, if you look at the arrow, we know, right? The internet abuse is dependent on attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control. And these three variables, can I just put for my own thinking? I cannot, right? I have put it from a theory. Anybody can tell me which theory is it? The attitude, subjective norm.
Theory of planned behavior.
TPB.
Theory of planned behavior.
Yes, TPB, theory of planned behavior. So this theoretical framework is designed or developed with the support of theory of planned behavior, TPB in short we call it, okay? So that's what earlier we said. Any variable you take, it has to be supported from literature or it should come from the theory, okay? So that's how it is. How many hypotheses can we have from this variable, this framework? Anybody can tell me, please?
Three.
Beautiful.
At least three.
Okay, beautiful. It's not at least, exactly three. So these are the three. After this, 1, 2, 3. There's a relationship between attitude and internet abuse, subjective of intelligence, second, and the third one is passive behavioral content and intelligence abuse. Okay, so I've written, so this is the title, say for example, factors affecting internet abuse at the workplace. Okay, I am going to use one PhD thesis. One of my friend completed PhD thesis at USM School of Management. And I'm going to show his whole framework. Okay, the study is being done about 7 or 8 years before, so I can show it, no problem. So this is from his research. It's just framework, just beginning. He got many other things I'm going to show you. So you have 3 hypotheses. That's how hypothesis can be written. And I have written 3 hypotheses in 3 different ways. Okay, there are many different ways hypothesis can be written. Okay, so these are the 3 hypotheses I have written in 3 different ways. And I'm going to share the slide with you, so no problem. You can later have a look. Okay. Now, how many hypotheses can I have here from this framework? 5, right? Because I have 5 independent and 1 dependent. Okay. Which theory support this?
Sorry, Prof.
Which theory support this model?
TAM, the TAM.
Very beautiful.
TAM theory.
Yes, excellent. Theory. What is the technology acceptance?
Yep.
Model, right? TAM,
Model, yeah.
technology acceptance model. Very good. Prof. Shashi, your students are very good, answering all right questions, right answers.
Thank you.
All right. So you have 5 variables here and we have a theory here. But TAM, actually, in the beginning, it started with only 3, right, variables. Those of you know. Perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use. What was another one? There was another one, right? I'm also thinking, I'm trying to recall back. There was another one, 3. But then the theory being expanded by the researchers, right? So they add on self-efficacy, organization support, compete, expand. Those were not there at the beginning with the TAM, okay? And later, even TAM and TPB, we have now a new model. We call it UTAUT, right? And most of the people are using UTAUT now in their research. Okay, let me cover this also. Dependent variable and independent variables are also being named differently. When you read research paper, they may use this term, so be familiar. Independent variable are also known as predictor because it predicts the dependent variable. Okay, it's a presumed cause, stimulus. It can be also sometimes called as antecedent. Okay, it could be also sometimes we call it manipulated variable. Why? Because when you manipulate independent variable, that explains your dependent variable. Okay, as I said, you are not feeling healthy, so you have fever, you have cough and all that. When these all are manipulated with medicine, you become healthy. Okay, that's why it's a manipulated variable. Dependent variable, also known as criterion variable. And then also is known as outcome variable, okay? Predicted the consequence and all that. So be familiar with these terms, predictor or criterion and all that, okay? Sometimes we call it also, I'm sorry, any question? Okay. Sometimes we do also call it like endogenous and exogenous variable also, right? Independent, dependent. So we be mindful of those terms, okay? Now, this is something that I came out with, and this is also being patented with my IPO. I recommend strongly to students that when you read research paper and you identify the problem and the issues with the problem, put it in a template, okay? So this is the template I propose. For the knowledge gap, your main problem, you put it at the top. For example, for this student, this is the study of my own PhD student, financial risk, businesses, farm value, monitoring role of financial innovation. So farm value is the main problem. And then the sub problem is financial and business risks. So he has the issues, credit risks, liquidity risks, operation risks, and solvency risks, you see. And his sub problem too is financial innovation. They become the moderating variable. So you can put that in a framework like this. And then from here, you transport it, export it into the theoretical framework would be even easier for you, okay? This is the contextual, industrial, practical issues. This student of mine looking at main problem in terms of contextual is the poor management of risks. And then here again, he identifies certain issues there, okay? And from there, he came out and proposed this model, okay? This is my own PhD student, okay? So you can see here. So there is a clear-cut link of doing this, right? So you have a template, all that, you put it from the literature, you extract, put it in the framework, and then you put it in the theoretical framework. And based on that, you know how many hypotheses you can have. So I have put it here for you. Later we can have a look into it. So I have already explained the independent, dependent variables. So there are cases where independent variables, not enough, So you may have certain antecedents to independent variable, okay? Even though independent variable is known as antecedent variable, independent and dependent. Independent can be antecedent, but there are certain cases you may have variables before independent variable, okay? Those are called, okay, this is what we have, right? We have dependent, independent, I've shown you. You may have, okay, I have shown it. You may have certain antecedents, okay? So attitude towards internet abuse. So attitude of internet abuse can be measured with usefulness, use of it. That's this term we look at earlier, right? So we have antecedent variables. Then subjective norm can be also measured through 4 dimensions. Perceived behavioral control can be also measured through 5. And this all has supporting theories. And this friends of mine, this is the real framework of his PhD study. I'm exactly showing you his framework. So he has extended. A lot of people have done his study using TPB and internet use, but not many use the antecedent before him, okay? So he proposed that there are certain antecedent variables are there. Now, can somebody tell me how many variables, how many hypotheses can you have from this model? Can someone please quickly tell me?
18. 1-8.
Again?
1-8.
Okay, 18. Because you are going to have four hypotheses: usefulness, use of use, playfulness, compatibility to attitude. You have 4 variables. Peer culture, supervisor culture, you have 4 to subjective of 4 variables. And then here is 5. So 4, 4, 5. So you have 13, right?
Yep.
13. And then you have attitude to internet abuse, subjective norm to internet abuse. So you have 3 here. So you have 5 and 8, 13 and 3, 16. 16 hypotheses.
Okay.
Clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Let me proceed. Now let me introduce the moderating variable now. This is how the moderating variable is. Earlier I said this is one of the intervening, right, variable. Either it will help increasing the relationship between dependent and independent, or decreasing the relationship between dependent and independent, okay? So there are many, I've shown it, you can look at it now. when it comes to moderating variable or moderator, we always refer to Barron and Kenny, their groundbreaking paper in 1986, where they proposed the moderating variable, okay? And just having a moderating variable, proposing moderating variable like that is not enough. There are certain prerequisites are there for you to propose a moderating variable, okay? So this is how it is. He said that it could be a qualitative, could be a quantitative variable. If it's a qualitative variable, then it's continuous variable, you can run it straight. If it is quantitative and having two categories, in that case, you may have to use syntax and all that, to dummy variable, creating dummy variable. Those of you are familiar with this PSS. If you use PLS, could be different, okay? So basically, moderating variables are introduced when there is an unexpectedly weak or inconsistent relationship between predictor and criteria variable. Criteria variable is dependent variable. Predictor is an independent variable. So we only introduce moderating when we assume that the relationship between independent and dependent is weak. We review the literature and we see inconsistency among the findings among the previous researches. So introduce a new variable to strengthen the relationship, okay? So that's the argument, okay? So we cannot simply just introduce a variable as moderating. You only introduce when we have conflicting findings, inconsistent findings, when there is not an established relationship between independent and dependent. Then only we introduce a moderating variable, okay? All right. Okay, when you run write hypothesis on moderating variable, Dawson expects us to show the relationship, either it is positive or negative in the statement. Okay, so the mediating effect of this variable will increase the relationship between this and that, independent, dependent, or may decrease the relationship between independent, dependent. So the direction should be there. Either positive direction or negative direction should be expressed in the hypothesis statement. That's what Dawson has recommended, okay? This is a research model. One of my PhD students has done research. She claimed that studies done on this area, most of the study use either macro, meso, or micro factors. But in her case, she combined the three, okay? She combined three and came out with the integrative model, okay? And then the relationship between independent and dependent, she claims that not very established. Certain variables are being having mixed findings, contradictory findings, conflicting findings. So she proposed a moderating variable, and coming to industry sector, country of origin become moderating variable for our study, okay? Mediating variable. So mediating variable is what is a bridge, okay? So we say despite extensive use of complex statistical modeling, a quality of research can be largely determined by the design decisions, okay? I'm going to show you later, like McKinnon et al. 2012, he said that mediation requires forethought about relationship between variables of interest and the theoretical meaning of, the relationship. So this is how it is, right? So it specifies how given effect occurs. And Barron and Kenny has given certain definition of mediating. It says, the generative mechanism through which focal independent variable able to influence the dependent variable of interest. That's and has to be understood. For moderating variable you introduce, there is no strong relationship, established relationship between independent and dependent. There's conflicting findings, inconsistent findings. Okay, but here in this case is different. Independent and dependent, there's established relationship, no contradictory findings. Okay, and then in between we propose a variable and we want to see whether there is a new variable that can explain better the relationship. Okay, so that's the assumption we must understand. Okay, this is McKinnon that proposed that you must have significant relationship between IV and DV. Then he proposed a mediating. I did independent to IV, mediating, and then mediating to dependent. That's how it is. Okay, let me show it. This is one. You are looking at partial moderation, independent to moderator, mediator going to dependent. Okay, but this is not the right. This could be the right one. You are looking at independent to dependent, and then your independent going to mediating and mediating going to dependent. Okay, so that's how the mediating is done. Can anybody tell me, if I use this framework, how many multiple regression I will have to do it? Assume that I have collected the data. Now I want to do the analysis. How many regression model will I have? Anyone?
You have 2.
You have, okay, you are talking about 2. Anyone? Different answers? No.
3.
3. Beautiful. So basically we have 3. Independent to dependent, independent to career advancement, we have 1 multiple regression. In all independent to work engagement, we have another multiple regression. And then work engagement to career achievement, we have 1 simple regression. So we have 3 regressions, okay? Okay, can I ask someone can answer me? How many hypotheses can we have here?
4, Prof.
4. Okay, I understand. You are taking like, okay.
Can be 5.
5. Okay. Okay, let me explain it. It more on 5, I guess. How? It's not even 5. It should be about, okay, let me, 3, 3, 1, 7. Say, for example, interrelated factor I take is at 1 variable, person, environment fit as 1 variable, monitoring, mentoring as 1 variable, 3. 3 going to dependent, I have 3 hypotheses.
7, 7, yeah, Prof.
Yeah, 3 going to work engagement, I have 3. And work engagement to career advancement, I have 1. So 7 hypotheses, right? Okay, very good. You are following the lecture. I'm very happy with it. All right. Sometimes we may have complicated modeling like that, you know. Some universities they like it to see you are creating it's really not very complex, but you're showing in a complex way. So you can see that the dependent variable is intention to share knowledge. Okay, and then your independent is attitude and subjective norm. And before attitude, you have 3 antecedent variable. And before organization climate, you have 3 antecedent variable, right? And organization climate is straight going to intention, and then organization climate going to subjective norm, going to attitude. So you have a mediating here. Then sense of self thought coming to subjective norm, going to intention, that is also a mediating. 3 in antecedent going to attitude, and then attitude going to intention also got a mediating, right? So you have first order and second order if you are running the smart PLS, okay? Or I'm not going to ask you how many hypotheses you have, but I have given the direction how many hypotheses can you have. These are some suggested materials which you should read to understand mediating and moderating. Since I'm going to share the slide with you, okay? Okay, let me introduce another one. This one we have looked at before. Okay. Oh, sorry. So this is his complete model, except the antecedent. You have antecedent earlier. Certain research you may require to have outcome variable. Not all research have. Please don't misunderstand me. Dependent variable is also known as outcome variable. It's true, but there are cases where the dependent variable is not enough to explain the phenomena in hand. In that case, we may want to have some outcome variable, like this case. When he identified the variable that contribute to internet abuse, then if somebody asks you, so what? Internet is abuse, so what? Okay. So what are the consequences of internet abuse? In one study, he has captured that. He has proposed that if internet is abused, that will lead to some organizational outcomes like work efficiency, security threats, or some psychological outcome, depression and loneliness. Okay, so you are going to have outcome variable also in certain cases. As I said, not always. Antecedent variable, independent, dependent is a must. And then depending on the problem we identified, we can introduce moderating, we can introduce mediating. In certain cases, we may have to introduce outcome variable. In certain cases, we may have to introduce antecedent variables. Okay, it's all dependent on the phenomenon, the problem in hand, okay? And this is how we write the outcome variable hypothesis, okay? So I will not go through this. I'll leave it to you. I'm running short of time already. So I hope you'll go through and understand it, okay? Now there's another variable, group of variable called control variable. Control variables are purification variable. The variable is already established. Every study concluded that this variable has positive effect. Every study concluded this variable has negative. Is confirmed. The one, and somehow independent and dependent, it works as purification. Purification variable. Say for example, I always give simple example. In a factory, you produce the shampoo and you let it use by somebody and stay in the home, at home. And then you find the shampoo works very well. Now, after using that shampoo and the person goes to the sunshine, you have to see that it's not damaging your hair, okay? So you have to have certain thing inside the shampoo that control that your hair is okay under the sun and also under the roof at home, okay? That's called control variable. And I'm not going to explain this. This is just to show you how control variable should be drawn. You can see it is not a straight line, it's a dot, 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 right? That's how the control variable is being drawn, and no hypothesis is tested on it, okay? Because it's being tested and confirmed before. So that's how we just show dot, dot, dot in the framework. And in the model, if you are doing econometrics modeling, we take them in the formula. In the running application, in the SPSS, Smart PLA, there are way of tackling the control variable. You will learn it later. My session is not about SPSS and PLAs, right? So there are cases whereby we may not use the theory, rather we use model, right? As I said, you may not use theoretical framework, conceptual framework, rather we use modeling, economics modeling. So we say the theory is basically provide alternative, but a model has third possibility to say what is not relevant, okay? That is modeling. And I gave you the reference here. I'm not going to read. And this is how the model specification is done. This is from my PhD student, the financial risks and business risks. This is how he took into account of independent and moderating variable in the model, okay? So that's what earlier I said. The theoretical framework and conceptual framework is not essential for all research. Certain cases you may have model, okay? Conceptual framework, as I earlier defined it, right? I said in the theory, you have ideas, then you have concepts, okay? So theoretical framework is developed based on theory, but conceptual framework will be developed through concept, okay? So it represents a less formal attempt. As we say, the qualitative study starts from zero, less formal definition, okay? So this is how it is. You got no theory to support it. No theory to support it. So you draw, you design, and then you test it, come out with certain proposition or assumptions, okay? So this is how it is. You have a problem, you have hypothesis, you have a framework, assumptions, and you have data, and finally you make a conclusions, okay? Either you come out with propositions, assumptions, or you end up with a theory, okay? And I've given a comprehensive differences between theoretical framework and conceptual framework. And I would expect you to read through, okay? Theoretical framework is basically developed by using theories. Conceptual framework is developed using the concept. Theoretical framework is used for quantitative study. Conceptual framework is used for qualitative study. Okay, so with that, I will end my presentation, and I would now go back to the, give back the session to Prof. Shashi Kumar.
Thank you, Prof. I tell you, first of all, you really follow the time and full of energy. Thank you very much. So let's open the floor. For OUM student, just announcement. For OUM student, the slide and the recording will be available at my OUM survival guide by early next week. So you can watch. Some of you, if you miss certain part, you are most welcome to watch at our My OUM Survival Guide. It will be uploaded there. And for more talk in future, I saw our staff are putting there our Telegram group, or at my background there, you can scan the QR code. You are most welcome to join our Telegram group also for future talk. And let's open the floor for half an hour with a question. Either you can write in the chat room, I will take the question from there, or you can mute the mic or raise your hand, then I'll give to you. So any question?
Yeah, somebody has raised hand. I think Sister Humaira Akhtar.
Okay.
Humaira.
So if you like to ask a question, you can mute.
Please unmute your microphone and you can speak. I think there's also one Shariful Islam. Yeah, Brother Shariful Islam. Yes. Please speak.
Let's give to Humaira first.
Thank you so much to give me an opportunity to talk to you. First of all, I'm from Pakistan. I am a student of University of Mahasa, and I'm doing a study in PhD in nursing. First of all, I would like to thanks to Dr. Aminul Islam to conduct a very, very important topic, because we are going through with these things, and we were so confused that how we will use the theoretical and conceptual framework. So there are a lot of things which really clear to me. Sir, I have one thing. First of all, can we have the same presentation with us? Can we get the presentation, number one? Number two, the presentation was very nice, very fine, but it's need more examples, because the last one which you have showed, the moderating and mediating, that was a bit confusing to me. The difference between the moderating and the mediating. So if you can just given with the example, you just can explain to me, that will be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, there are two questions, Prof. Shashi. Number one, basically, she's saying whether can I do similar presentation to her university. I think possible. You can contact me, no problem. The second one, moderating and mediating. You have to understand that if I wanted to just focus on theoretical conceptual framework without the background of discussion that I did almost 45 minutes, I started with a clear understanding of research and research design, philosophical foundation, research approach. All that are very important, necessary, and that's why I spend a bit less time when it comes to moderating, mediating, control variables. There's no problem. I thought giving one example is fine. I have given one, but if you need more example in the future talks, if you want, I can give you more. No problem at all. What you have to remember is we introduce moderating variable when we have a situation whereby the findings on the relationship between independent and dependent is not truly established. You have inconsistent findings, you have conflicting findings, all that, then we introduce moderating variable. And again, when you introduce a moderating variable, that variable cannot come down from the sky. Again, it has to be support. It should support from literature. That's why, as I said, when you read a paper, make sure you read the suggestion for future research, whereby you will see the authors will say, propose that these factors could be tested as moderating variables. That would be the easiest way of identifying what could be moderating, mediating. Okay. And when it comes to mediating variable, as I said, that the relationship between independent and dependent is truly established.
Okay.
Every researcher has concluded there is a relationship between independent, dependent, and positive or negative, consistent findings. In that case, there's nothing new to show in our research. So even though we are, we replicate the similar kind of research, in that case, in the new context, say for example, a research has been done in Australia, and you are in Pakistan, you want to do a research on the same topic, replicating the similar research. But then you are not contributing any new knowledge, because many people will argue knowledge is universal. If you agree that knowledge is universal, so people will say that knowledge in Australia, knowledge in Malaysia and Pakistan is the same. So what's the point of doing another research? So you will say, no, this is a new context. This research has not been done in Pakistan. That's most of the PhD students will argue. I have done the same argument. No, this research has been done in Bangladesh, and you will do the same. But what you need to do is still we have to contribute some kind of new knowledge. In that case, we can introduce a mediating variable. Okay.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Is that clear? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, Prof, I saw here one very good question.
Yes.
Imtiaz, would you like to unmute and ask the question directly? Because I saw there two questions. Imtiaz Ahmad.
Okay. There are other two also. Yes. Yes, Brother Imtiaz.
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, my question is, you call the antecedent variables the dimensions or indicators to measure that variable? And my second question is,
Yes. It
the
depends.
dependent
Yes.
that dependent variable becomes the mediating or intervening variables if there are some other outcome variables.
Okay. I think I have given you clear explanation of when we should use antecedent variable and when we introduce outcome variable. Let me touch the outcome variable first. The dependent variable is also known as outcome variable because that's the outcome of your research coming from independent. But there are cases whereby dependent variable does not really provide true answers. It keeps hanging. As I said, the example, internet abuse. So you have found out the factors contributing to internet abuse. But then somebody comes to you and say, so what? Internet is abuse, you know. So what? What happens after that? Seeing that kind of hanging dependent variable, you need to introduce outcome variable. That's number one, okay? And independent variable, there are certain cases also there, whereby the variable stands alone, but again, it is contributed by some other factors. The cases like that, and I've given you example. And as I said, the framework that I have shown to you, the complete framework, it is from a real PhD study from University of Science Malaysia, okay? So it's being also supported by theory. Your attitude can be measured by some other variables. And that is also in TAM, right? Later in TAM, attitude become mediating and the other variable become independent. Those of you are familiar with TAM and all that, I think you will understand me, okay? Sister Amelia Hasbullah, she has raised hand. Sister Amelia, yes?
Yes, Prof. It's a very enjoying and nice discussion. I always follow the session that you created. Prof, I have a question. I just try to make a simple research and I make some hypotheses. But unfortunately, I have make 7 hypotheses, but 5 of them is rejected. So how can I describe the research is about, Prof? I get confused with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Basically, you have chosen, I understood your question. You have chosen 7 variables and you have collected data and you found 5 rejected and only 2 accepted. The first question is whether those variables were supported by theory when you put them in the framework. Of course, they are support from theory, right?
Yes.
If you have a strong support from the theory and you found it rejected, there's nothing to be audited. Because this is what is the real case. I personally prefer you to manipulate the data. People like us, if you bring the data to me and you tell me how many hypotheses you want to be accepted, you give me 3 hours, I can make it. So I can make it like 5 accepted out of 7. That can be done with some manipulation of data, which I never recommend. I don't support. Rather, I would propose you stand with it strong and you find out some possible explanations why the 7 variables out of 5 has been rejected. When we want to explain why this hypothesis is rejected, it could be a good study, explaining why hypothesis is rejected. If all researchers found to be accepted and your case rejected, it's a very good finding. How do you explain? You have to refer back to your demographic characteristics of your sample population. Because of that characteristics of your sample, the people who have filled in your questionnaire, their background is totally different from previous researchers. You have to start comparing with the background of other research respondents and your research respondents. Say, for example, you are doing research in Indonesia and your situation is totally different from US and Europe. So you have to find out that kind of characteristics. My respondents were aged between 18 to 25, majority of them. Majority of respondents are single. Majority of respondents are not highly educated, is up to degree. You know, kind of explanation that you have to find, okay? And you have to rationalize why your hypothesis has been rejected. Nothing to be worried, it's just about finding out the rationale to explain why your hypothesis is rejected. It is very common, students frequently come to see us and ask us, Prof, what should I do now? So many hypotheses rejected. I say, nothing to be worried. You got 2 accepted, still fine, the other 5 rejected. Maybe to be safe, what you can do, out of 5, you can drop 2 variable and rerun the multiple regression. 3 rejected and 2 accepted, 5 variables. See what happens. It may happen that you will end up having all rejected, you know, in that case. Because you have reduced the number of variables. R square could be low, you know.
But how if I want to make after 5 variable were rejected, and I make a kind of a qualitative path, Prof. Is it possible after
Yes.
I got your idea to support why it is rejected?
Yes, that's what I'm doing currently with all my PhD students. They all do quantitative research because I'm with finance background. But I make it now compulsory for them to do a little qualitative study, just to verify and validate what you have found in quantitative study. For your case, I think it would be very good, as you understand, that you can collect some qualitative data to validate your quantitative findings. That would be beautiful.
Okay, so after that, can I what I can say? I can because this research I want to make a kind of model, Prof. For the village entrepreneurship. So after the hypothesis rejected and I make a qualitative, and can I say it is become a model for my research?
No, for your model, you have only 2 independent. Those 2 accepted. Those rejected are not in the model already, right? So your model that you propose, you have to propose it with together with the 2 dependent to the 2 independent to 1 dependent. So the 1 rejected is dropped from the model. It's not in the model.
Oh, I see.
Even though you verify with qualitative, still your model got only 2 assumptions, 2 variables, 2 independent. Okay, sister.
Okay.
Thank
you very much, Prof.
Okay, Prof. Prof. Shashi Kumar, brother Shariful, I think he raised hand.
Hold on, Prof. I see there are many in the chat room.
I see.
Asking for slide and asking for recording, and they are not OUM student. So can I say this, that you are going to upload in your channel and you're going to share the slide in your channel also? Would you like to make an announcement, Prof?
Yeah, sure, Prof. Basically, those of you who are new with me, I do have a YouTube channel. The name of my channel is Platform for Research and Development. Platform for Research and Development, okay? In short, PRD. If you go to YouTube, you just write my name even, Dr. Muhammad Aminul Islam or Prof. Aminul Islam, you will get my channel. Or you write Platform for Research and Development. Platform for Research and Development, okay? It is there.
I already put in the chat room.
Okay, if somebody, those of you attending with me, if you can go to the YouTube and find the link and put it in the chat box, it would be nice if one of you can do it. So the YouTube channel is there, and basically I uploaded 101 video up to now. Okay, somebody already put the link in the chat box. So thank you so much. One of OUM student has already put it there. So you can go to my YouTube channel, and I already have, I think, 3-4 videos of developing theoretical framework. But today's discussion is a bit different from the earlier. I cannot have the same slide every time, right? So this is the updated and modified version. So you will get many things new here. And once Prof. Shashi Kumar shared the video with me, then I will upload it. I hope by next week you will see this video uploaded in my YouTube channel.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we saw Sariful Islam. Okay, over to you, Sariful Islam. Now you can ask your question.
Okay.
Doctor,
Yes.
Doctor, can we have more example? Because I'm from the medical side, and the example which you have shared is a non-medical. So, can you share more example, like sort of an easy example, so where we can understand that how we can apply this theoretical concept or conceptual model in our research? Because I'm in a very initial stage. I am basically I'm in a process of the literature review. So this time I think it is very necessary if I do understand actually the application, because I am having a difficulty in application. I do understand that which you have teach initially. It was an excellent is a summary of what I have learned before. So it being revised, it is excellent. But how to apply, I'm always get stuck. I'm always guessing. Actually, I have studied from AKU. I'm a student of Akha University School of Nursing from Pakistan. So we have done a very extensive research in the master's programs, but still I'm having a difficulty how to apply the theory in the research. This is the main thing which I'm facing.
Basically, first of all, I thought I have given you an example which is related to medical, right? I said if you feel unhealthy,
Yeah.
then say for example, I give you in a different way the example. Say for example, I'm having fever and headache, but I don't feel sick. There are cases like that, like Professor Sheikh. Sometimes we play football suddenly and we get body ache. We don't go to the doctor unless I feel unhealthy, I feel unwell. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the example I've given you. You are feeling unhealthy, you are feeling like fatigue, you are feeling like you are sick, not feeling well. Then you decide to go to the doctor. And when you meet the doctor will start asking questions. Uh,
Mm.
what happens and why you're feeling there, what did you do, what kind of food you eat, and all sort of questions are there. When doctors are asking questions to you, actually the doctor is doing a qualitative research, right?
Yeah.
Doctor is doing a qualitative research. Doctor is trying to understand what is wrong with you. That is qualitative research. And
Yeah.
then when he identified that you are not feeling well is because you have some problem. Say for example, those people have gastritis. From the gastritis, slowly they develop the Helicobacter pylori, HPB, right? The disease. Now we call it HPD,
At
Helicobacter
pylori. Yeah.
pylori disease, right now.
At pylori.
Yeah. So somebody who is not feeling well, he is having stomach pain, he cannot have good sleep, and many things. When that happens, what happened? The patient goes to see the doctor, and doctor says, "Did you take gastric medicine?" Says, "I have taken, but it's still not helping." "Did you take sleeping pill?" "I'm still having problem." So what happened? Finally, they do endoscopy, right?
Yeah.
So doing endoscopy, they do certain tests and they identify. So you are looking at why you are sick. So we identify a problem, somebody is not sick, and identifying what are the issues contributing to your sickness.
Hmm.
Those issues become your independent variable. You're not
Yes.
feeling well, that is the dependent variable. I've given that example before. So when you are reading the literature, through the literature, when you have a problem in hand, try to find out which theory explains this problem.
Okay.
And once you identify the theory, every theory is developed based on assumptions. Relationship between few factors, those factors are independent variable. That's how
Hmm.
we develop the theoretical framework. Is this understood now?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
All
quite
right.
easy.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any more question? Any more question?
I didn't go to the chat box, Prof. Possibly.
No, it's okay, it's okay. They are all more about the slide and that. We already addressed that.
Okay.
Okay.
Doctor, I have
Slide.
some questions.
Sure, please.
Okay, for a qualitative research, how do I apply intervening variable, and whether it is necessary, and if it's necessary, how is it different from moderating and mediating variable? Your comments, please. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. As I say, the qualitative study starts from zero, right? You identify a phenomenon and you try to understand with the theory, but you cannot find any theory. There's no theory available. So what you have is concepts. So you develop conceptual framework. So in majority of qualitative study, you may not have moderating and mediating. It's all about coming out with assumptions. That's independent and dependent. That's qualitative. Okay. Now again, you may have mediating or moderating certain cases to explain the phenomena. Say, for example, we look at the world now. A lot of divorce cases, right? Even in Malaysia now, 33% divorce rate, right? Prof. Shashi, 33%, if I'm not mistaken. The divorce rate is very high. Even in my country, a lot of divorce rate. So you now find out why the divorce rate is increasing. People get married to have beautiful life, right? So when they get married because they love each other, they start living together and they start enjoying their life, and suddenly something goes wrong, and it goes up to extreme point that they have to separate, which is very unwanted. Nobody wants that, but it happens. So if you want to understand why people are breaking up, then you may not find a theory. You may not find a theory. So if you cannot find theory, then you interview people who are being separated or divorced, right? So you meet the husband, you meet the wife, and then you meet the guy and the lady, and then you try to identify the factors why the things that have contributed to the separation or the divorce. Okay, so in between, possibly you can see a mediating. A mediating would be the kids. You look at the pair which has been divorced, did not have any kid, and you look at the pairs who have kids and yet they are separated. So you want to see now whether the kids can play as a moderating role or mediating role. Okay. So the relationship and between husband and wife is expected that was not very good, and that's why they are divorced. So in between, you can propose a moderating, that is the kids. In that way, if you propose, it works in qualitative research. Okay. Is that clear, sister?
Yeah. So in this example that you give, the kids is the moderating variable that can either break or make the marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
It becomes
All
a
right.
twist between the father and mother. It can be also mediating, because sometimes we see certain families, like for example, there was a friend of mine. The kid one day came to and say that the mom and dad are not talking. So I said, then how are you having the family life now? He said, the mom, if you want to say something, will tell me. I'll go and tell the father. Or father want to say something to the mother, father tells the girl, and the girl has to go and tell the mother. So that is the mediating, right?
Right. Okay.
You're following
Okay.
me?
Yes. So in this case, the mediating variable is the bridge.
Yes. Mediating or
Right.
moderating, looking at the way you let it apply. So even in a qualitative research, mediating, moderating can be applied. Depends on the
Right.
kind of phenomena we identified.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, one more question before I ask my question. Okay, one last question from the audience. Anyone? I see here Hiranya asked one question. Can we present more than one theory in theoretical model, sir? I think you already answered in your lecture, but if you want to add, you're most welcome, Prof.
Yeah, definitely I have given that answer during my lecture. If you want to contribute new knowledge, and you are taking a phenomena or research problem, whereby you take one theory, then you cannot find anything new. Because remember, if you're doing a PhD, at the end of the day, you have to contribute new knowledge. So if you found that millions of people have done, or thousands of people have done research with one theory and explain it, so you got nothing new to find out. So what you can do, you can combine 2 or 3 theories and integrate them and come out with a new framework. So you say that both theory, I have given an example, the micro, macro, and macro factor, right? I have given a framework in my presentation. My student did a research. She claimed that all research is done either on the micro level or macro level or meso level. But in her case, she combined all 3. See, it happens, like in the research now, without model, you can see it's a combination of TAM and TPB. Okay. So yeah, there are situations because TAM has been extensively used. TPB has been extensively used. So now people come with without. Now even you have extended without. So that's how we integrate. When you find one theory is not enough to explain the phenomena or the research problem you have, you can integrate 2 theories or 3 together and you come out with a new integrated model, a new framework, and you can do a study. Thank you.
Okay, Prof. This is the question from one of the students. He's not able to ask, but he WhatsApp to me. Would you like to show your slide, page 87 or 86, theoretical extended model.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let
I
me.
think it will be good for others also.
Okay.
I will
Where?
ask him. I will ask question on behalf of him.
Tashmin? দুই জায়গায় তো নাই হয়েছে দুই জায়গায় তো নাই হয়েছে এই না টেক্সট নিয়ে আসো কেন আগে ওই দিতে দাও Okay. Just give me a few minutes.
Can, no problem. I think the one that you have independent, dependent, and outcome.
Yes.
The slide about that.
Okay. Where is the present here? Because I connected the TV with, so having okay.
Okay. No, it's okay. If you're not able to show,
No. Can I'm showing it. Just give me.
Roughly, okay, good.
Okay, so it's about
slide number 86 or 87, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Okay, 86. Okay. Yes, I'm there.
Okay. So you see, the question is, there's some article are coming out with the title, if based on this model, some article or some thesis come out with the title, antecedent and outcomes of internet abuse. So if antecedent and outcome of internet abuse, so people ask from this model, if they are looking at the model, they will say internet abuse is mediating variable. But from your presentation here, if based on this, we see internet abuse as dependent variable. How do we manage this misconception that when it can be mediating, when it can be dependent?
Well, I think when we start writing paper, we will start writing the story from the introduction of the research problem. In the research problem, we will tell the story to the people, right? When you write a paper, when you write a thesis, I always say it is basically telling and selling our story. So we say the background of research in the research problem. That's where we will say internet abuse is dependent is clear, okay? And when we draw the framework, we will write also like the slide you see now. I have mentioned here which is dependent, independent, and outcome. It's very clear. So there's no way people can misunderstand the framework or the research problem that we describe.
Okay.
And I've also make it very clear in what situation you propose mediating and what situation you propose outcome variable, right?
Yeah. So you see, Prof, do you come across that some of the author publish paper in the Scopus or Web of Science, they put the title antecedent and outcome of internet abuse, but when they run an analysis, they also do additional analysis, internet abuse as mediating. What is your stand on that?
For this case, I wouldn't do that because it doesn't support by the theory.
Yeah.
If I use as a mediating, then it has to have support from the theory. But in this case, there was no support from the theory. So I cannot test as mediating.
Okay, I agree.
Yes. Because as I said earlier, to be a mediating variable, the independent and dependent must have strong relationship, right? So in this case, if say, for example, attitude, subjective norm, perceived behavioral control are independent, say, for example, and outcome, organizational outcome and psychological outcome are dependent. Okay, and then I use now internet abuse as mediating. In this case, based on Wilson 2015, there must be established relationship between attitude, subjective norm with the outcomes first. In my case, it is not. So based on Wilson 2015, I cannot use internet abuse as mediating. There's no way.
So in this case, we have to treat this as a two model, right?
Yes.
Even though we draw as one model, but we should treat as a two model. This is just a graphical representation.
True. It is a framework, but with two models.
Yeah.
True.
This is where that certain people, I find they still don't have this knowledge yet,
Yeah.
So I think very, very sharp, 12:59. Okay, so we promise that we will end the session at 1 o'clock. So thank you very much to all the participants that are with us. There is no certificate for this session. We don't give certificate. You know, these are knowledge, and we try to bring more talk like this. Do join our Telegram group. You can see at my background, you can scan the QR code, or you can see the chat room earlier. So there are more talk are coming in future. And if some of you are here, very experienced, you like to share, you can write to me. My email address was given earlier. In your topic, in your specialty, we are able to provide a platform for you also for your future things. So again, last but not least, again, thank you very much to Prof. Dr. Aminul for agreeing to give this talk to us. It's such a wonderful talk. I do enjoy this talk. Even I solve my problem also from your talk. And I hope others have joined this also. And last but not least, Selamat Hari Raya Aidil Fitri and Eid Mubarak to all of you.
All right,
Would you like to say last word before we end the session?
No, it's all right. Thank you for having me with Open University Malaysia. And those of you who are with me, I think I will start physical tour in Malaysia from July. So a few universities already requested me. So I said, let's start physical. So if you would like to attend the physical session, it's going to be 2 days long advanced research method workshop, starting from identify research topic until the publication of papers. All that will be included. If you'd like to attend, you can follow me in my LinkedIn, or you can follow me in my Facebook, so you can be updated. So I think most probably I will start with KL, then there's one university approached me, followed by Johor, and then followed by Sabah. There's the 3 universities requesting me to go for physical tour. So I'll start that. So if you'd like to join, you can join it later. Thank you, Prof. Shashi Kumar again. Actually, we know each other since our MBA days in Penang. And then we got back, we got connected after how many years? I do not know, possibly 15 or 20 years. So it was very nice to have you, to be connected again, reconnected again. And hope we'll have more collaboration and more activities for mutual benefits, inshallah. Thank you, OEM, for having me and giving me the opportunity to share my learnings and some little knowledge that I have with OEM and some other students. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Welcome.
And we'll do more in future.
Inshallah.
We'll keep in touch, definitely.
Sure.
Thank you for connecting me to your brother also. I'll try to bring your brother also to our platform.
Inshallah. All right, Prof. You take care.
Take care,
All right,
take care,
everyone.
Prof. Thank you.
Bye.